Welcome to Islamist Global Conscious Wellness, Leaders Around the World. We are your hosts.
I'm Dr. Isabel.
And I'm Dr. June.
And then to achieve the best version of yourself, we need to uncover our self stories. We have the power within ourselves to do and be what we want to be. And then Cordelia Gaffar is here with us. She is just an amazing human being, amazing woman. And I would like to ask you if you could please share all this amazing bio. She has a lot of information that is easier and is better actually if she tells us her story and how she became what she is right now.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Dr. Isabel and Dr. June, for having me first and foremost. This is really great. I'm so excited about your project and your work together. So I'm happy to be here. I'm going to tell you backwards, right? So what I don't want people to know about me is that once upon a time, I suffered with postpartum depression, which led me to be who I am today. And through that struggle 18 years ago with my second child, I found out that a couple of things. I disassociated from my body and that I could heal myself with food. And so that led me into my studies on both emotional wellness using food. And so I've written several books now, 3 co-authored, 3 solo, and I have a 4th solo coming out. And the process of starting my business 5 years ago, I created a program called Replenish Me, which used to be the name of my podcast, which I won Podcast Host of the Year last year. And
Congratulations.
I forgot to mention thank you, with the books, most of them have been bestsellers. And one of them is, my co-authors is even Oprah Winfrey. So, but my biggest brag is I have 6 kids that I've been homeschooling when I left corporate 16 years ago. So that's me in a nutshell.
That's amazing.
Very impressive. Even one is a more struggle.
Yes. Something amazing. So what is it that you concentrate on? I know you specialize in emotions, and especially your darkest and most difficult emotions. So what's your approach? What's your protocol to advise and coach people regarding the emotions?
Right. I mean, most of the time people don't come to you and say, I'm struggling with my emotions, right? Because we're running away from them all the time. We have to put on that. You have to put on this, right? So what I help people with is whatever they tell me their problem is, right? Oh, I'm not doing well at work right now. I'm not, liking my job. They feel some disconnection with their inner and their outer self. And they're more attracted to my, let's build a system of self-nurturing, replenish me bit, right? But once we get under the hood, that's when, I can, we discover what the real problem is. And that's how I help them. Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, so that's well said. So people don't want to show up. Not necessarily they want to tell you from the beginning, what kind of emotions you're suffering. So I think that as a coach, as a strategist, to navigate that emotion, to kind of really get in touch with the core, that's where I think that your genius also shines, right? From your experience.
Right. Yeah. So you're right, Dr. June. So that's like when I'll ask them, okay, so where do you feel that in your body? And then they'll say, oh, my back, I really have this reoccurring back pain, or my shoulders hurt, or, my hips or my knees hurt. And then I'll ask them more probing questions, but just between you and me, here's the deal with that. Okay. So like, if your back is hurting, that means you're dealing with lots of disappointment in your life. And so that's the energy center for that. If your hips are hurting, this is like where you're repressing the issues within your intimate relationships, and you feel abandoned most often. Your shoulders, you're taking on other people's stuff. And so that's what they're really saying.
Correct. That's true. So there is a correlation between the emotions that they're having and the symptoms.
Yeah.
And it can go deep from like ages, or years, and even from past, like the generations from the mother, the ancestors.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
imprinted in their DNA, basically.
Yeah, that's so true. And a lot of people ignore that. You know, we know like from psychology that 30% of our personality comes from our DNA. But, you know, and we have that 70% that is controllable, right? But that DNA at the root cause sometimes can be the triggers that we don't even understand why we are not coping with life the way we would like to, why we get angry about something that, you know, shouldn't make us angry, or something that, you know, doesn't seem so tragic. We get really sad about it. Yeah.
So from your experience working with the many clients, have you got into the questions of, you know, beyond their what they're dealing with, you know, asking for their history from their parents and grandparents? Have you had that type of many example that people dealing with emotion that carry on the generations?
Yeah, I mean, as you're asking that question, one person comes to mind. You know, originally, she was a manager at a bank, and she's just having problems getting her staff to cooperate, right? But then we dug a little bit deeper. She had issues in her personal relationship, and then even deeper, she observed something with her parents' marriage. You know, and there was a very particular event when she happened like 5-6 years old, and she has been carrying that into every relationship, whether it was personal or business. So these are the kind of things that people don't really pay attention to, and they don't know. But when I asked her, where do you feel that in your body, she actually was seeing a physical therapist for her shoulder, and she had digestive problems.
Oh, that's very interesting. So it was a big shock for her what she experienced when she was 5. So that's very interesting, because what we have learned with epigenetics is whatever happened to us up to age 7, it creates a really big impact in our subconscious mind. And then what we have seen with science, it's research and scientists, they have discovered that 90% of what we are doing day to day, it's from the past. So we're basically kind of repeating the story. And if there is something in the subconscious, we only have 5% of what we think about. Our thoughts are conscious, correct? And then 95% are subconscious. So if there is something that happened during those 7 years of life, or even during just the last trimester of gestation, it can mark the future, like 20, 30, 40 years down the road. You can start experiencing some symptoms, just like the shoulder. And
Yeah.
in that case.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I totally saw that in her. And definitely she was on autopilot for about 40 years, clearly. Yeah.
Yeah. And most people are, I think, unconscious about those things, right? So then by the time they realize that all the patterns has developed through their work, through the relationship, so, and then they're screaming, I need help, but they can verbalize what's wrong with them, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like what I was saying at the beginning, no one ever says to you, like, I need help with this, because they don't even know what's happening. Yeah.
And they don't relate the emotions and the symptoms, the physical symptoms. So they go through chiropractor, they go to the general doctor, they go and see a massage therapist, physical therapist, and nobody can help them, because the problem is deeper. The root of the cause is not in the physical body. It's just amazing. I'm very curious about your book with Oprah Winfrey. How was that experience working with her?
Oh, I didn't work directly with her. We were, I was selected amongst a pool of, really dynamic women. So I wish I could say I met her personally, but no, I didn't.
But you were energetically with her.
Yes, energetically, yeah. And if you actually read the book, that is very true. Like on a vibrational level, our messages are just like really one side of the other coin, really. Like as you go through the book, so it's when it says the subtitle is women who positively impact the world, like For real, it definitely is. We have our own specialties. In that book, I spoke on grief, right? And I talk about the presentation of grief. And for me, I was in shock, actually, for 20 years. My dad died when, like, half my life ago, we'll just say, right? And then I realized just only 3 years ago, like around this time of year when it was his birthday, and I was just starting to tell my kids, oh, today is your grandfather's birthday. And then it was just like I shut down for 3 weeks. And like to the point that I ended up going to the doctor because I thought I had bronchitis. So as I researched about grief, this is how it presents. It's like it's a congestion in your heart, right? And your lungs. But I was all clear. I didn't have bronchitis. So in the end, for that story, I just really realized I remembered one specific incident when we were really having a heart-to-heart right when I was starting my career. And he gave me a really good hug. And I just remembered that moment, and I leaned into that hug, and it was almost like I like coughed and like my everything came back to life again,
So that was a healing moment. Is that correct?
It was really a healing moment, and it was an aha moment also. So now when I deal with people dealing with grief, and there's a lot of people dealing with a lot of different kinds of grief right now, not necessarily the loss of another human being, right? I just tell them to lean into the loving and the deep meaning of that. And that's what will bring you back to center, focusing on the wisdom and the love of that, relationship.
That's amazing. Yes, according to traditional Chinese medicine, grief and sadness, it's just centered mainly on the lungs, on that heart chakra area. So people can experience symptoms of bronchitis, pneumonia, or chest pain, and that's because of all this energetic or this blockage of your energy. So that all this just gets stagnant in that area.
And also that, it is between the lung and also area of the heart, right? So in the chakra system, that's the area of the heart chakra. So the broken heart, when you break the relationship, whether any type of relationship, so then to missing that relationship, that can create this contracting energy, right? That can go into the heart and lung.
Yeah.
I was just going to say in the Tib tradition, which isn't very far from the traditional Chinese medicine, it is the same thing. It's like our hearts move towards the left, right? And when there's a sense of loss, we just, to increase our love and gratitude to overcome that depression or that loss, we really focus more on the higher power and the source of that connection, and not so much the physical attachment, right? It's a detachment from the physical and more of an attachment to the spiritual.